So we've got our brake system complete. We put a new master cylinder, proportional valve, Wilwood disc brakes all around. Pedal's still a little bit spongy, so we're going to have to dive into the service manual and see about bleeding the ABS module. Stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back to the garage. Hopefully the air compressor in the other room's not making too much noise, but we are here trying to button up our brake system on the Typhoon. We'll take a look at the brakes here in a second, and I shot a couple quick shots with my cell phone camera while I was doing it. This though is a new camera setup. Let me know how the video quality is, audio, all that stuff. If you're having any issues with it, there might be some tweaking, there might be some learning, but I think this thing is gonna be sweet. Gonna get us the opportunity to really get some good shots in there, some good video and things like that. As I said, we did switch over to a Wilwood master cylinder. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it over in there, especially with it focused on me. With the proportioning valve, it's got a one inch bore, which I believe was what the stock one was. Essentially, we were just replacing the stock stuff. That didn't probably need to be done. The proportioning valve did though, because this was a disc drum originally, and now we're a disc with way bigger discs on the front side. But that was a pretty easy job. There, things shut off. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see down in here on the master cylinder or the proportioning valve, but essentially we were able to adapt the stock lines, go right into the bottom of it, and then use the kit to go into the side of the master cylinder. Easy peasy. Now for the ABS system, over here, we've got two bleeder valves on top of this. I've gone ahead and bled all of the discs, so we've got fluid all the way down to the disc. I think we've got some air trapped in the top side of this unit. And so we're actually going to try a vacuum bleed on this whenever we get done taking a look at the brakes. Okay, I wanted to take a second in the middle of this because I'm getting ready to bolt this together and show you. This is a bracket Sports Machine makes for the Typhoon for Corvette, like C5 brakes, and not using C5 brakes, I'm using C5 Wilwoods, but the stock ears have to be cut off. And I ground it down, threw some paint on there, and had to do some grinding on the back to get this to sit flush. Comes with new hardware for the hubs, so I went ahead and just did whole new hubs. Took the dust cover off the ABS sensor. We're going to keep ABS on this, at least try to, and we'll take a look at what it looks like on the side that's done. So, gives you an idea kind of how all finished up. And the Sports Machine kit comes with new brake lines. It goes down into the banjo fitting down here and ties into the stock fitting up there. So that's the front. On the rear, I did something a little bit different. This is a kind of standard GM rear based on the axle face, which is the 4-bolt axle face. And in fact, these brackets, which you can't really see back there, were on the Nova originally whenever I still had a GM axle in there. Whenever I kicked it over to a 9-inch, I kept everything, and that way I could transfer this stuff over. The big thing here is that bracket's a 2-piece bracket, and you have to space it out. Basically one more washer than it was, because the axle flange face from the end of the axle to the front is a little bit longer. So you just want to make sure whenever you do that, that you leave it a little bit close with the caliper to the back side of the brake, so you can space the caliper back with a spacer or two, and you run the real small shims on that to get this centered up in there and get all that working. Then I just used a adapter that Wilwood sells for GM. Find out your flare size, and it goes from flare over to an AN, and then goes AN into the back of the caliper. So pretty straightforward, easy bolt on. And then I'm waiting on stuff to get the Wilwood master cylinder in. Took the factory one out. We'll be putting a proportioning valve in since we are going from disc drum to disc. Here we've got our fronts. Turned out real good. One issue I did run into with these wheels is I had to end up running a very short spacer on there to clear the caliper, or else it was going to hit. And it causes a little bit of poke on the wheel, but honestly not bad. We're talking maybe a quarter of an inch or so, which kind of lines up well with the rears. So we get a idea of what the rears look like here. And as I said, this was just kind of a stock GM Wilwood kit for the GM style flange. And we had to do some extra shimming to get the brake caliper to line up, but all that, for the most part, was pretty straightforward. So, tell me what you think. Okay, so we got our black vacuum bleeder mounted up on here. Your mileage may vary with these things. I tried using this on the brake calipers, but I ended up going back to the standard like bottle and brake fluid single purge. If you get a squishy pedal, it generally means there's still air in the brake system. You're compressing that air whenever you squeeze on it. One thing I will say about using one of these, if it works great, but always keep a rag over the air outlet because this thing will blow a mist of brake fluid. I always try to use a box end on these because it feels like they're made out of Play-Doh usually. This one's broken loose already, so we can at least open and close it with an open end, because we just can't get a good angle with the box end in here. Generally don't have issues with leaving the lid on whenever I do this, but may be causing us to not have enough vacuum to get the air out. Okay, we're getting a lot more air out of this other bleeder. I'm wondering if there's just an order for bleeding it that matters. See if I can get you guys any closer here. I don't know if you're really going to be able to tell, but you'll see bubbling. There is some fluid on there and you'll see some bubbling. And what we're hoping for is to eventually just start pulling straight fluid through this fitting. It's barely cracked though, so we might be bringing some outside air in. So there's closed. Well, I say that's closed. It wasn't sealed though. Let's try it right there. And this is what I don't like about the vacuum bleeders, is that they can pull air from around the threads of the fitting and give you a bad indication of air. Okay, we're switching over to a reservoir. You can do this with an empty bottle. You just need to make sure that the hose goes down into brake fluid. And essentially what we're wanting to do is push all the air out and down into this reservoir. The air will bubble out, and then whenever we release the pedal, it sucks fluid back in to replace it. So we'll try it like that. Give it a couple pumps and see if we see this tube get full. And we're a little over 2.5 on there. So we should be moving fluid. May need to crack it open a little bit more. I'll tell you what, this pedal is already a lot firmer. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to make much of a difference without having the ability to pulse the analog brake module. I do see a big pocket of air in there. I'm going to try and push that through. I do not have any OBD1 tools, so I don't really have any way of fixing it. It doesn't look like that's moving, but the brake pedal is a lot more firm. I may have to just drive it for a while. because it will automatically, once you get above 8 miles an hour, run through a test process to see if the module's working correctly, and if it's not, it'll disable the ABS and throw a code. Oh shoot. Let's see if I can push any air out of this fitting, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Yeah, I don't think we're getting any joy. I can see the level moving some, so it is applying pressure to the system, but I think it's just a situation where these valves are closed, and so they're not going to allow anything to happen. I just need to order a Tech 1 ABS test unit. They make a jumper, I think. I'm going to do some more research on it before I call it good. See if there's something that we can jumper out to put it in test mode. Okay, so we didn't have the best luck at bleeding the ABS module manually. Not surprised. It's doing kind of what it's supposed to do. Now, they say you can go out, drive this thing, and get the ABS, you know, slam on the brakes, get the ABS module to kick in, and it'll cycle a few times, and that'll help to get the air out. But honestly, probably what needs to be done, since we drained all the fluid from this system, is to get something that allows me to trigger the test function of the ABS while we do a bench bleed. Man, it's humid. I've just got sweat dripping over me. So I will do a follow-up to this video where we use that to get it sorted out, get the brakes feeling amazing, and then take it for a drive. You guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning. As sweat drips in my mouth. Ugh.